What if the most unexpected turn in your life led you to discover a love you never knew you needed? Welcome to Happiness of Love, your daily dose of K-dramas. Get ready to fall in love with unforgettable stories. Can you tell us where are you listening from? The sun blazed against the pure white snow of the Swiss Alps, its brilliance rendering the scene breathtaking and ethereal, as Naomi Sato twirled around, capturing the majestic beauty through her camera lens. Each click resonated with her spirit, a dance between her and nature. Just as she positioned herself to frame a perfect shot of an ice-covered peak, her phone shattered the tranquility with a shrill ring. The voice on the other end trembled, and when the words "Aiko has passed away" pierced through the line, everything froze. The vibrant colors of her surroundings dulled, and an unsettling weight gripped her heart as she staggered back, struggling to comprehend the loss of her childhood friend. Aiko, with her unyielding adventurous spirit, vibrant laughter, and dreams only just beginning to unfurl, was gone. Across the world in Los Angeles, Kenji Takahashi sat in a sleek high-rise office, numbers and financial projections sprawled across his screen. He was mid-pitch for a major deal, poised and meticulous, but just as he presented the final slide, his phone vibrated violently against the mahogany desk. The same fateful words swallowed the air around him: Aiko was gone. Stunned, he felt his carefully constructed world shatter like glass. With a heart heavy with unresolved emotions and the unexpected recollections of their past, he packed his briefcase with urgency, his mind racing through memories of a friendship lost and an unreciprocated love buried beneath the surface. Back in Los Angeles, amidst the buzzing city full of life, destiny pulled Naomi and Kenji into Aiko's lawyer's office, a stark, sterile room that felt strikingly out of place for the gravity of the moment. The atmosphere felt charged with an electric tension as they faced each other for the first time. Two strangers, visibly marked by grief, stood across the polished table littered with documents. The lawyer, with a softened expression, delivered the shocking news: Aiko had named them both as co-guardians for her 6-month-old daughter, Hannah. Naomi's mind spun with disbelief. The freedom she cherished vanished in an instant, leaving her feeling like a trapped bird. She had loved Aiko fiercely, always admiring her strength, but now the mantle of motherhood loomed like an impossibility. Kenji's stoic demeanor cracked, revealing the torrent of emotions cascading beneath. "This isn't right," he managed to choke out, still reeling from the intensity of loss and the sudden weight of responsibility thrust upon him. "I'm not fit to raise a child." His words echoed the deep-seated fears that had shaped his entire life: uncertainty, vulnerability, responsibilities he had always avoided. As the lawyer shared Aiko's heartfelt letter, which spoke of belief in their ability to give Hannah love and stability, the room grew silent. Tears glistened in Naomi's eyes, merging regret for what she had taken for granted with the overwhelming drive to honor Aiko's final wishes. With no immediate family available, they reluctantly exchanged hesitant glances, a fragile understanding forming in the space between them. "We'll do this together," Naomi finally said, a quiet determination underlying her soft voice, though she was unsure how. Outside the lawyer's office, the weight of reality settled heavily on their shoulders. Two lost souls, unwittingly bound by love and tragedy, handed the responsibility of an innocent life. Hannah, who had not yet known the warmth and love of a family, became their shared beacon amid the mounting chaos. As they stepped into the open air of a city sunken in grief, they could hardly fathom the difficulties ahead, a shared journey teeming with sleepless nights, messy diapers, and the unraveling of their own expectations about family, love, and what it meant to truly care for one another. As the days passed, Naomi and Kenji found themselves embroiled in a whirlwind of chaos that neither had anticipated. Naomi, with her windswept hair and an adventurous spirit, felt her heart constricting within the confines of a carefully crafted routine. She had always danced to the rhythm of her own pace, capturing life's fleeting moments through the lens of her camera, while Kenji, clad in his pressed shirts and tailored slacks, thrived on structure and predictability. Every day felt like a tug-of-war as they navigated their uncertain roles as co-guardians. Kenji, determined to establish order, meticulously laid out schedules for every feeding, nap, and diaper change. He presented charts that detailed feeding times aligned with development milestones, statistics he had carefully researched, and diagrams illustrating how to properly hold a baby to prevent flat head syndrome. Naomi, on the other hand, flew into her role with the wild creativity she reserved for her shoots. Insisting on spontaneity, she would sing her off-key lullabies and twirl around their cramped living space, trying to instill joy in their new routine. "Look at her smile, Kenji. It's working," she exclaimed one evening, her laughter echoing lightly, even as Kenji frowned at the disarray of toys scattered across the floor. The living arrangement was less of a merger and more of a clashing of two opposing forces. Naomi sought to keep her vibrant apartment decorated with a mix of expansive landscapes and lively street portraits, while Kenji clung to the meticulous order he had maintained, his apartment embodying clean lines and neutral tones. When he proposed that they designate one home for Hannah's sake, pointing out the need for stability, Naomi was quick to argue that her space was equally important to her creative process. So, as a result, they shuffled Hannah back and forth between their homes, a practice that seemed practical but soon spiraled into chaotic disarray. With every transfer, the baby's cries echoed with confusion. She could sense the dissonance between her two caretakers. "She's just a baby. She needs continuity, Naomi," Kenji said one evening, his voice tinged with exasperation as he attempted to soothe a wailing Hannah, contrasting sharply with Naomi's unconventional methods. Despite their differences, Naomi and Kenji slowly began to develop a reluctant camaraderie, finding moments of synergy amid sleepless nights that blurred the boundaries of exhaustion and frustration. One particularly challenging evening, after a dinner filled with hurried conversations and multiple diaper changes, Hannah erupted with high-pitched cries that filled the air with alarm. Naomi attempted her usual routine, dashing around with exuberance, but as Hannah grew ever more restless, it was Kenji who spoke with calm authority. "Let's try this together," he said, guiding Naomi as they turned to each other, a synergy emerging between them despite their uncertainty. They took turns bouncing Hannah gently while sharing gentle banter laced with laughter, as if creating their own calming rhythm. Slowly but surely, Hannah quieted, snuggling into Kenji's wide chest, allowing a blissful calm to envelop their makeshift family for a fleeting moment. Naomi felt a surge of warmth toward Kenji as she watched him softly stroke Hannah's back, feeling the warmth of something unexpected bloom within her heart. Yet, the challenges persisted, each day presenting a new hurdle that threatened to unravel their newfound stability. Hannah's fussiness suggested she could sense their tense dynamics as well. As Naomi attempted to soothe her with an off-pitch rendition of a popular Korean lullaby, she found herself caught between genuine affection for the baby and the looming dread of feeling inadequate. Kenji, armed with the arsenal of scientific parenting knowledge, would gently intervene, suggesting more structured techniques. "We need to stick to her feeding schedule," he said, glancing at her with a mixture of admiration and concern. Naomi internally groaned, feeling as though she were a free spirit caught in his regimented web but unable to deny the moments when his methods proved effective, even if it meant momentarily relinquishing her impulsive nature. Amid the exhaustion, an unanticipated rhythm began to weave itself into their chaotic coexistence, like an unlikely melody rising above noise. Late-night coffee runs, awkward but warm-hearted exchanges, and shared smiles over a bemused little girl between them became the backdrop of their clashing lives. One late night, as they both sat in the dim light with Hannah nestled snugly between them, their eyes locked momentarily, and understanding ignited. A dance began where they could gracefully step around their differences. In those stolen seconds, they discovered that though they approached parenthood with conflicting philosophies, every sleepless night offered a chance for small moments of tenderness and teamwork, fueling the hope that beneath the chaos, they might just find the equilibrium their little family needed. As days turned into a blur of sleepless nights and endless diaper changes, a vibrant email from one of Naomi's contacts in Bali lit up her phone, echoing her dreams of adventure and artistic expression. The offer to shoot for a luxury resort on the stunning Indonesian island was nothing short of a dream come true, promising a realm of tropical beauty that had always called to her spirit. It felt almost cruel to read the enticing details of the project: the sun-drenched beaches, the warm colors saturated with whispers of adventure when she was trapped in a world of baby bottles and baby cries. She found herself thinking that this could be her escape, the opportunity to break free from the weight of responsibility that was now pressing down on her. Yet as the thrill of the offer washed over her, a wave of guilt crashed in, tethering her to the reality of little Hannah, who now depended on her and Kenji. Meanwhile, Kenji, having just finished another long day of financial spreadsheets and analysis, sat on his couch surrounded by paperwork, his heart heavy with unresolved feelings of inadequacy. Though he tried to approach the guardianship with meticulous planning, the emotional burden was becoming almost unbearable. Rumors of Aiko's brother, Hiroshi, seeping through the cracks had planted seeds of doubt in his mind. His fingers danced nervously over the keys of his laptop as he searched for legal options to quietly transfer guardianship, a solution that could lift the fog of uncertainty from over his life. It felt safer to retreat into the patterns and calculations that had always brought him comfort rather than face the unknown that lay ahead. But then came the soul-wrenching news: little Hannah fell ill, spiking a fever that sent them both into a frenzied panic. The hospital's sterile scent mingled with the faint, sweet smell of antiseptic as Naomi and Kenji settled into the uncomfortable chairs, their anxious hearts conspiring in shared worry. Naomi gently stroked Hannah's tiny hand, cradling the baby's warmth between her own. Each tick of the clock felt monumental in the hushed atmosphere, time stretching with every minute that Hannah remained unresponsive. Meanwhile, Kenji kept a vigil by their side, his usual composed demeanor fraying at the edges as he fought to mask his deep-rooted fear of losing someone he had barely begun to know. When their eyes met across the small hospital room, unspoken fears danced between them, the fear of failure, of abandonment, and the quiet acknowledgement of their intertwined fates. As the night wore on, they took turns holding Hannah, each shift in position becoming a tender moment shared between their eyes, laden with emotion that they had yet to articulate. In those fragile hours filled with the rhythmic sighs of the baby and the beeping machines, a quiet understanding blossomed. He could see how Naomi's eyes brimmed with guilt over even considering a life uprooted, while she glimpsed the vulnerability behind Kenji's polished exterior, revealing the crack in his fortitude. "I can't do this without you," he said, the truth spilling out unexpectedly as he placed a firm hand on Hannah's forehead, feeling the warmth ebbed and flowed, signaling health returning. When the doctor finally walked in with encouraging words, relief flooded through them, cascading like warmth on a winter's day. With Hannah's recovery came new clarity for Naomi. Bali seemed distant now, a fleeting silhouette on the horizon of her ambitions. She found herself responding to the job offer with a resounding no, surprising herself as the words emerged. Her heart had chosen Hannah over the allure of an exotic adventure, something she had never anticipated. Seeing Naomi's unwavering commitment solidified a shift in Kenji too. It stirred something long buried. "Maybe we need a new plan," he said thoughtfully, contemplating the dynamic between them, the chaotic co-parenting that had emerged from an unlikely partnership. Cohabitation was a leap, a bridge into an unknown filled with the potential for both heartache and healing. Over the next few days, as they discussed living together, the fear of losing the spark of connection coiled in their chests, lingering unspoken between them. They were still uncharted territory, and while it felt daunting, both found a flicker of hope in the midst of their tumultuous reality. "If we do this, we might uncover a way to give her the stability she needs," Kenji articulated, his eyes locking onto hers, signaling a willingness to navigate this unconventional family scenario together. As the thought lingered between them, the promise of new beginnings shimmered on the horizon. In their hearts, they sought the courage to make it work, to turn their differences into a strength, for Hannah's sake, and perhaps, for their own. Living together proves to be both a disaster and a revelation for Naomi and Kenji as they navigate the chaos of co-parenting in their small shared apartment. Naomi's bohemian lifestyle bursts into Kenji's meticulously ordered world like a wildflower through concrete. Her vibrant photographs, eclectic travel souvenirs, and the scattered remnants of her free-spirited essence take over the minimalist space Kenji had so carefully curated. The delicate balance of his structured existence begins to crumble as Naomi's freedom intoxicates the air around them, filling his heart with a mixture of annoyance and reluctant intrigue. He finds himself picking up the pieces of colorful, mismatched fabrics left strewn across the living room while mentally scheduling his next perfectly timed coffee break, only to be interrupted by the cacophony of Hannah's cries. Amid their bickering over laundry, Kenji insisting on separating colors while Naomi shrugs at the very notion of moderation, something shifts in the air. In the evenings, between the strewn toddler toys and the unwashed dishes, unexpected moments of connection emerge amidst the chaos. One day, while Kenji is hunched over his laptop, bombarded by emails and spreadsheets, he hears Naomi across the room, her laughter ringing out louder than the cries of an infant. She is pulling silly faces at Hannah, eliciting giggles that warm the room. Kenji is taken aback as he catches a glimpse of this new side of Naomi, a side that can dissolve his stressful day with a single expression. It's a moment that unearths the stirrings of joy inside him, prompting him to leave his work behind and join them in the playful madness. "Let's see if she can laugh while I alter my face into something dorky," he thinks as he engages in their ridiculous game, discovering the liberating joy of shared laughter for the first time in what feels like eons. As days unfold, Kenji's heart thaws slowly, one laugh at a time, even as the mess piles up around him. It's when he finds himself asleep one afternoon, wearing the weight of exhaustion, that the breakthrough strikes. He wakes to the soft cooing of Hannah nestled against him, the sunlight spilling through the window, illuminating the peaceful scene. Naomi stands nearby, her gaze steady, not wanting to disturb the delicate new tableau before her. She feels an inexplicable warmth flooding through her chest at the sight of Kenji, the ever-composed financial analyst, defenseless in his sleep, his guard down in a way she had never seen before. In that moment, their lives converge amidst baby bottles, diaper changes, and the unpredictable chaos they've embraced, layering their hearts with newfound tenderness. As they embrace a domestic routine, a subtle transformation begins to unfold, and their friends start to take note. Friends who once lived their lives on the periphery begin offering playful nudges, teasing them about how they seem like a married couple, navigating the unfamiliar waters of parenthood while wearing goofy smiles. Naomi shrugs it off, brushing their comments aside with a laugh, but behind her easy dismissal, she feels the quiet tremor of something deeper blossoming between them. Kenji, on the other hand, is inundated with confusion as he struggles to differentiate between annoyance and admiration for the spirited woman who has shaken up his once stable life. He finds himself stealing glances at her, pondering the layers of her vibrant soul he is finally beginning to uncover amidst the disarray. With each passing day, the chaos of their cohabitation becomes less of a battlefield and more of a shared adventure, pinning them along the edges of vulnerability while pushing them closer together. The evenings filled with redirected baby cries and shared meals where neither manages to cook a meal without disaster slowly transform from points of contention into moments of grace, laughter bubbling through the tension, illuminating the shadows lurking at the corners of their hearts. Kenji begins to question whether the urgency in his irritation is really something more, and perhaps, in the intricate complexity of their lives, he is starting to recognize that this very disruption could be the unexpected beginning of something neither of them had anticipated. As the crisp winter air settled over Los Angeles, Naomi and Kenji found themselves excited yet anxious in the lead-up to the holidays. The stores buzzed with festive cheer, music blaring from every corner, but in their small apartment, the atmosphere was thick with unspoken tensions. They had been trying to create new traditions for baby Hannah, who lay nestled in a pile of fluffy blankets, oblivious to the complexities of adulthood swirling around her. Naomi, with her bohemian spirit, envisioned a carefree holiday filled with spontaneous adventures and laughter, while Kenji meticulously planned an itinerary filled with structured activities to foster a sense of normalcy for Hannah. "We could be decorating a Christmas tree instead of buying it," she suggested, her excitement barely masked by their contrasting viewpoints. Kenji, however, had already arranged to purchase the tree, believing it would save them time and prevent chaos, eliciting an eye roll from Naomi who felt trapped in this cycle of practicality. The holiday season soon spiraled into a whirlwind. Kenji's mother arrived unannounced, her disapproving gaze sweeping through their apartment, which was peppered with Naomi's colorful decorations, the walls adorned with her travel photographs. Clenching her jaw, she dismissed Naomi outright, skepticism etched on her features as she introduced herself coldly. "So, this is the famous wanderer who thinks she can raise a child?" she said, each word dripping with judgment. Naomi, casually adjusting Han's tiny knitted hat, overheard the exchange and felt a swift stab of hurt penetrate her defenses, but she masked it with a forced smile. While comforting Hannah, who cooed softly in her arms, she steeled herself against the biting words that stung to the core. Kenji, usually the dutiful son who seldom stood up to his mother, surprised himself with a wave of protectiveness for Naomi. "Mom, Naomi has been amazing for Hannah. She's given up so much to be here, and she deserves your support," he said with unexpected fierceness, a mixture of frustration and loyalty igniting in his chest. Naomi caught his gaze, and her heart tangled in confusion, processing the warmth of his defense but simultaneously questioning why Kenji's validation meant so much to her. Did it signify a shift in their relationship, a deeper connection that neither had dared acknowledge? Just as they attempted to settle the brewing storm set off by Kenji's mother, a knock at the door disrupted the tense atmosphere. Hiroshi, Aiko's estranged brother with whom neither had had any contact, stood awkwardly in the threshold, his silhouette shadowed against the hallway light. The air turned thick with uncertainty as he entered their apartment, curiosity mingling with unease, stealing glances at the soft baby blankets and Pandora's box of toys strewn across the floor. "So you're the guardians then?" he asked, a skeptical tone lacing his words. "Do you really think you are capable of raising her?" His voice cut through the silence, planting seeds of doubt in both Naomi and Kenji's hearts. Feeling the weight of Hiroshi's scrutiny crush their resolve, Kenji's breathing quickened, his mind racing as he glanced at the innocent face of Hannah, who remained blissfully unaware of the adult turmoil around her. "We're doing our best for her," Kenji responded firmly, the lingering vestiges of his previous hesitation evaporating in the wake of Hiroshi's challenges. Naomi, gripping Hannah a little tighter, felt a surge of defiance rise within her. She had sacrificed and persevered for Hannah, and she relished the innocent giggles that occasionally burst forth from the little one, a testament to the love they had built together. "Hannah deserves love and a stable home, and that's exactly what we're providing," she said, her voice steady but thick with emotion as she spoke directly to Hiroshi, silently urging him to see beyond their uncertainties. With the impending holidays lurking just around the corner and Hiroshi's visit lingering heavily in the air, cracks began to show in what they thought they had solidified with Hannah. It was clear that both Naomi and Kenji would have to confront not only the skepticism of others but also the vulnerabilities lurking within themselves and the growing, fragile family they had unexpectedly forged. As autumn leaves painted Los Angeles in hues of gold and crimson, the atmosphere in Naomi and Kenji's home grew thick with tension. The incessant ticking of the clock echoed their mounting anxiety, both uncertain of how to navigate the storm brewing around Hannah. When Hiroshi had approached them, the news had spread like wildfire in their minds, igniting fears they had only begun to confront. Hiroshi, dark-eyed and solemn, had made his position clear. It was not just about guardianship. It was about family. His assertion that he was Hana's closest blood relative hung like a dark cloud over Naomi and Kenji's fragile co-parenting arrangement. They had fought tooth and nail to become the anchors in Hana's life, yet here stood Hiroshi, ready to sweep that foundation away with the weight of his claims. In their hearts, panic bubbled as they rushed to seek legal counsel, poring over documents in a small, sterile office that smelled faintly of old paper and freshly painted walls, feeling utterly unprepared for the legal battle ahead. Each consultation filled them with dread. They would need to prove their worthiness not just as individuals, but as a team. Under the pressure of impending court dates, their relationship began to fracture, the fissures deepening with every disheartening conversation. Kenji's meticulous nature pushed him to approach every detail with precision, creating schedules and strategies as if Hana were a complex financial report to analyze. Naomi, however, felt stifled by these constraints, her adventurous spirit yearning to embrace spontaneity, never envisioning that parenthood could be such a rigid affair. They clashed over diaper brands, feeding schedules, and the best lullabies. Kenji's preference for methodical parenting clashed horribly with Naomi's bohemian instincts. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shimmering rays through the window, their voices rose in a heated argument. Naomi waved her arms dramatically, frustrated at the confines of Kenji's careful strategies, proclaiming that they needed to experience joy in the chaos of parenthood rather than adhere to some predetermined set of rules. Kenji countered, his voice rising as he reminded her that they were not equipped to improvise. They needed to be stable for Hana, who deserved security amid all the upheaval. Their words flew through the air like shards of glass, moments filled with pain revealing the raw wounds neither had wanted to address. As the chaos settled much too abruptly after their last confrontation, that evening on the couch found them staring at each other through the flickering glow of the television, the silence stretching until it felt suffocating. Slowly, Kenji let out a shaky breath, vulnerability creeping into his stoic demeanor. He confessed, his voice lower and edged with apprehension, that he was terrified not only of losing Hana but of losing Naomi too. The haunting truth broke through the walls he'd so carefully constructed around his heart, and the revelation hung heavily between them. Naomi, startled, felt a rush of warmth seep into her chest mixed with an unsettling fear of her own. Every unvoiced sentiment began to swirl in their shared space, dark clouds gathering stormily above. How could they face this challenge together when their paths felt so radically divergent? Caught in her tumultuous thoughts, Naomi curled inward, pulling away from his gaze as if the weight of his confession became too much to bear. The understanding that they weren't just fighting for a child, but wading through murky waters of their own emotional landscapes, threatened to unravel the same delicate balance they had fought so hard to maintain. With their days counting down to the custody hearing, time seemed to slip from their fingers like grains of sand, leaving shadows of doubt in its wake. Naomi found herself traversing the landscape of her mind, thoughts coiling around memories of laughter and sorrow she had avoided like a ghost haunting the corridors of her heart. She recalled bright moments shared with Aiko, their dreams filled with travel and adventure. But now, enveloped in uncertainty, she feared that those same aspirations would vanish entirely, watched through the lens of maternal roles she hadn't anticipated. Meanwhile, Kenji buried himself deeper into his work, numbers on spreadsheets offering far more clarity than the emotional upheaval swirling his daily life. But in his heart, the very thought of losing both Naomi's laughter and Hana's soft coos filled him with a desperation he could barely articulate, an urgency pushing him to guard the fragile connection they had forged against the backdrop of upheaval. Yet their growing distance felt like an insurmountable chasm, their need for intimacy battling against the force of pain and fear, leaving them both to wonder if they would emerge unbroken, united only by the innocent face of the child they so desperately wanted to protect. The courtroom was a stark contrast to the warmth of the home Naomi and Kenji had begun to carve out for Hana. The white walls loomed around them, echoing their anxious thoughts as they sat opposite Hiroshi, who looked equally tense and out of place. Kenji's polished suit felt constricting, a symbol of the many barriers he had built around himself throughout his life, while Naomi's vibrant dress stood out, radiating an energy she hoped could fill the chilly air. As the judge called for testimonies, Naomi felt the weight of her heart pressing against her ribcage, each beat syncing with the unsettling rhythm of their situation. When it was her turn, she found her voice quivering slightly, but she held on to the memory of Hana's laugh, letting it guide her through the fear. She spoke from a place she had long buried beneath layers of wanderlust and self-imposed isolation, revealing her vulnerability to the court. Naomi admitted that she had always run from attachments, articulating her fear of losing the precious people she allowed near her heart. Each word felt like a small liberation, as if shedding a skin that had become too tight. She explained how Aiko's death had shattered her illusions of invincibility, leaving her no choice but to confront the fragility of life and love. Kenji watched her, admiration swelling within him, knowing that her bravery mirrored his own hidden struggles. When it was Kenji's turn to speak, he felt the weight of Naomi's truth rekindle something deep inside. He took a breath, his hands shaking slightly, as he confessed how much he had chased after stability, succumbing to the false comfort of control in order to shield himself from the chaotic unpredictability of life. Kenji's eyes glistened under the fluorescent lights while he acknowledged the toll this approach had taken on his heart and his relationships, particularly with Aiko. As they shared their truths, the words hung in the air thick with emotion, raw and vulnerable. There was an unspoken acknowledgement of their inner battles that no one but each other could fully understand. The barriers they had erected seemed to dissolve briefly. In a moment of eerie stillness that enveloped the room, Hiroshi's expression began to shift as he listened intently to their heartfelt confessions. The threads that connected them faded, replaced by a sense of kinship born from shared sorrow, as if they were suddenly united against a common fear, the fear of loss. Hiroshi's heartbeat matched the heavy silence around them, and after a long pause, something shifted within him. He could see the sincerity in their faces, and a flicker of realization crossed his features, igniting a newfound clarity. In an unexpected turn, Hiroshi lowered his gaze and, with the weight of grief in his voice, withdrew his custody claim, confirming that he only pursued it out of guilt for abandoning Aiko when she needed him the most. The courtroom's tension shifted, leaving a palpable sense of relief coursing through Naomi and Kenji, who exchanged startled glances, each grasping the weight of Hiroshi's sacrifice. In that moment, it did not matter that they had been strangers only weeks before. They had faced their deepest fears and emerged from the darkness together, threading their lives through the raw tapestry of love and loss. With the legal battle behind them, an uneasy silence settled between Naomi and Kenji, becoming almost a third occupant in the apartment that had once been filled with laughter and chaos. The festive lights glittering in the corner of the room highlighted the disarray of their shared lives, a stark reminder of moments filled with joy now overshadowed by a growing tension. Even the soft hum of Hannah's baby monitor seemed to echo their unspoken words, amplifying the distance that had developed in their relationship. Naomi, lost in her thoughts, rummaged through her suitcase, a palpable weight forming in her chest as she replayed the recent months in her mind. She felt like a ghost in her own life, drifting through the motions while Kenji appeared tethered to Hannah, his focus unwavering on the little girl who had unexpectedly reshaped their worlds. It clawed at her that his love for Hannah felt like a barrier isolating them rather than connecting them, leaving her questioning whether she still held a role in his heart beyond being a co-parent. As she stuffed her favorite shirts into the bag, Naomi's heart hardened. She couldn't shake the feeling that Kenji saw her as an afterthought, a mere accessory to his well-structured haven. She paused, looking around the living space now cluttered with baby toys and reminders of co-parenting life, the fairy lights that once enchanted her now casting shadows over her unease. Maybe it would be easier if I just walked away, she murmured to herself, frustration bubbling within her. She heard the creaking sound of the floorboard behind her but didn't turn around. She was no longer sure of what to say to Kenji, whose stoic presence seemed to loom larger than the mountains she once climbed without hesitation. In contrast to her bold spirit, he emerged as a figure bound by discipline and uncertainty, revealed in the weariness etched into his features. Kenji stood at the threshold of the room, caught in a whirlwind of emotions as he watched Naomi move with a resolve that struck him deeply. He wanted nothing more than to reach out and wrap her in a comforting embrace, but his tongue felt heavy, his words trapped beneath layers of fear and self-doubt. She had always been the free spirit, the one who chased adventure with a camera in hand, and here he was, a man lost in the confines of daily routines, wishing he could find a way to bridge the growing gap between them. "Naomi, please," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper, hoping his words could penetrate the walls they had unintentionally built. Her back stiffened at the sound of him breaking the silence, but she didn't turn to face him, unable to meet the vulnerability that danced in his eyes. While she continued to fold, Kenji took a hesitant step forward, the distance between them feeling as vast as a canyon. "I know things have been tough lately, but I care about you, not just Hannah," he confessed, attempting to convey the tumult of emotion swirling within his chest. Yet every word he uttered felt inadequate, and the thought of losing her only intensified the turmoil inside him. He had always been more comfortable navigating spreadsheets than navigating feelings, and the realization that he might lose Naomi terrified him. He resisted closing the distance between them, but the exquisite tension in the air whispered for him to act. Just then, a soft coo broke the suffocating silence, Hannah reaching for her mother with her tiny outstretched arms, a bubble of innocent charm amidst the brewing storm. As Naomi stood poised to walk out, lost in hurt and unresolved feelings, Hannah suddenly let out a deliberate sound, a perfect little mama escaping her lips as if the universe had conspired to connect the dots in a moment of clarity. The word hung in the air, stunning both parents into a startled silence. Naomi froze, her heart clamoring in her chest as she instinctively turned towards the sound. Hannah's eyes sparkled with delight, and for an infinite second, the world around them dissolved, leaving only the pure connection between mother and daughter. It was as if time halted, gifting them a precious shift in perspective. That single word carried the weight of their struggles, illuminating the bond they had all formed against the odds. She felt something shift within her, her resolve beginning to crack as she dropped her suitcase to the floor. As if locked in a magnetic pull, she rushed towards Hannah, scooping her into her arms with tears pooling in her eyes, realizing in that moment how deeply interwoven their fates had become. Kenji watched, holding his breath, the surge of relief coursing through him almost overwhelming. In the face of this unexpected miracle, he stepped closer, feeling the shared warmth around them surge into an undeniable embrace. Naomi looked at Kenji, finding the emotion spilling over in their gazes, and he stood there, ready to close the distance between them, hopeful that they could rediscover themselves within the fragile family they had formed. As Naomi stood beside a mountain of packed bags, her heartache felt as heavy as the luggage slung over her shoulder. She tried to keep the tears at bay, but as the images of their time together flashed across her mind, Hannah's laughter, Kenji's tender glances, and the unexpected moments of connection, they crumbled away like the fragile facade she had built around her emotions. Every step towards the door felt like a step away from something beautiful, something that had emerged from the ashes of tragedy. She could almost hear Hannah's soft coos overlapping with her heartfelt laughter, a reminder that those tender, cherished moments could not be untangled from the chaos that had brought them together. Just as she was about to open the door, the very air shifted, charged by an undeniable force. Kenji stepped into the living room, his face a mixture of urgency and desperation, as if he had just made the most important decision of his life. He hesitated for a heartbeat, his breath coming in shallow bursts, before finally saying that she couldn't walk away, not now, not after everything they had fought through together. The words seemed to hang in the air, wrapping around Naomi like a warm blanket, enveloping her in the warmth of someone who cared. At that moment, she stopped, her heart hammering in her chest, and turned to face him fully, the surge of vulnerability coursing through the room palpable. Kenji, without breaking eye contact, took a cautious step closer, illuminating the path to the truth that had remained buried between them. He said that the thought of losing her felt unbearable, as if he were losing a part of himself, and those words struck deep, unraveling the threads of her uncertainty. They stood there, two souls intertwined in unspoken fears and lingering desires, with the weight of their past battles behind them, granting them clarity in the simplest yet profound moment that brought forth the truth. Kenji's admission felt like a whispered promise of solace in a world that had once felt impossibly chaotic, and he finally found the courage to articulate what had been building in his heart. He confessed that Naomi, with her fierce spirit and unpredictable ways, had unknowingly woven herself into the very fabric of his life. For the first time, he allowed himself to surrender to that raw, unfiltered truth. Tears brimmed in Naomi's eyes, reflecting the fleeting glimmers of hope that danced between them. She took a deep breath, and the air around them shimmered with the acknowledgement of their fears, vulnerabilities, and dreams. The weight lingered between them, heavy yet light, as though everything they had experienced had led them to this moment. In that fragile space, where the past collided with the present, Kenji stepped forward, bridging the chasm of uncertainty, and before she knew it, he was pulling her into a soft embrace. It was the kind of embrace that said 1,000 words without uttering a single one, an embrace of safety, warmth, and connection. As if guided by some invisible force, their lips found each other in a hesitant yet necessary kiss, a transition from strangers to lovers marked by the acknowledgement of everything they had fought to overcome. The kiss was shy at first, filled with the nervous energy of unleashing years of pent-up emotions, but as they melted into one another, it deepened, echoing the desire that had quietly grown through the sleepless nights and chaotic moments of co-parenting. It was not just a kiss. It was a promise, a whispered vow that they would face whatever lay ahead together side by side, united in their love for Hannah and for each other. In that singular moment, everything shifted. Both feared the fragility of love but knew they would nurture it just as they had nurtured Hannah, emerging from their shared journey more whole than they had ever thought possible. As they nestled into their cozy living room, laughter and warmth radiating from the joyful chaos of toys and balloons strewn about, Naomi and Kenji exchanged knowing glances filled with a wealth of unspoken promises. The truth of their journey, fraught with challenges and fierce love, had become the foundation of their newfound family. In that moment, as they tucked Hannah into her crib, the sweet, innocent child snuggled cozily under a patchwork quilt that Naomi had fashioned with her own two hands. A tidal wave of contentment washed over them. "You know," Naomi began, her voice soft yet teasing, "if anyone had told me a year ago that I would be baking a cake, let alone for our daughter's birthday, I would have laughed." Kenji chuckled, recalling the culinary disaster of neon blue frosting they had both struggled to contain. "And yet, here we are, complete with a rainbow cake, even if it almost turned into a rainbow disaster," he added with a playful smirk, drawing her into a light embrace. In the midst of laughter, Kenji's expression flickered, a shadow of contemplation crossing his features as he gazed at the framed photographs on the wall, images of their adventures as a family, snapshots capturing moments of spontaneous joy alongside quiet intimacy. His gaze landed on a recent photo of the trio, Hana giggling in between them, tiny arms thrown wide as if embracing the world. Naomi noticed the shift in him, a slight tightening of his jaw, and gently took his hand, sensing the deeper reflections beneath his calm exterior. "Are you all right?" she asked quietly, concern etching her brow. He paused, gathering his thoughts, before turning to her with an earnestness that made her heart skip. "I've just been thinking about how life has a way of tying us to unexpected paths," he shared, his voice steady but vulnerable. "If only I'd opened my heart sooner, maybe I wouldn't have spent so long running away from the things that truly matter." Naomi felt the weight of his words settle between them, a bittersweet reminder of their past struggles and the uncharted future ahead. As they traveled through the landscapes of each other's hearts, she could feel the quiet hunger for adventure reigniting within her, the kind that spoke of journeys yet to be undertaken, of dreams waiting silently on the horizons. With a sudden spark of excitement, she proposed an impromptu family road trip to the coast, imagining sunsets painted in hues of orange and purple, sandcastles crumbling under the watchful gaze of the waves. Kenji's eyes lit up, igniting a fire of passion and curiosity that matched her own. For Hana's next birthday, he said with resolve, not merely aiming for a grand celebration but for precious memories that would grow richer with each passing year. As they tumbled into plans filled with laughter and yes, maybe a few inevitable hiccups, they shared a soft kiss, the promise of a beautiful future hanging between them. Yet, as they pulled away, the sound of soft cooing reached their ears, a melodious reminder of how quickly time was running, how each day was a gift waiting to unfold. But just as the buoyant atmosphere wrapped around them, Kenji's phone vibrated insistently on the nearby table. His brow furrowed as he glanced at the screen, a sharp contrast to the moment they had just shared. It was a message from an unknown number, just a single line. Aiko's attorney had contacted him with urgent news regarding Hana's guardianship status. The vibrant warmth of their evening abruptly shifted, reality crashing against the delicate fabric of their existence. Naomi and Kenji exchanged glances, the atmosphere around them thickening with the veiled uncertainty of life's next turn. It was as if a door had swung open, revealing an entirely new chapter filled not merely with the laughter of a little girl but with challenges and revelations awaiting them just beyond the horizon. As the last remnants of cake were savored and the stars tucked themselves neatly into the sky, a palpable sense of anticipation hung in the air. They were ready to face the world not as strangers, but as partners, yet the journey ahead was destined to be anything but smooth. In that enchanting twist of fate, the promise of love, fearless adventure, and the unknown lay woven intricately into their lives, leaving a whisper of possibility floating in the stillness. One path closed, yet countless others awaited, and for some reason, despite the uncertainties ahead, they both felt ready to embrace it all, hand in hand. Their story was far from over. It was only just beginning. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to Happiness of Love. That way, you won't miss any of our heartfelt romances. See you in the next love story.